Ah, it is I, a wise but old man of many men, and I speak to you now without scenes, without cuts, without distraction, only words carried on breath. I told you I would be going on a journey until March 2nd, and on the very first day of that journey I heard a story. A simple story, yet one that opened a door in my mind. A story about a reality that some refuse to accept and others cannot understand. A man once spotted a leprechaun in the forest. Yes, a small creature of mischief and mystery. The man was clever. He trapped the leprechaun and would not let him go. "Please," said the leprechaun, "release me." The man replied, "What will you give me?" The leprechaun asked, "What do you want?" The man said, "I want a home. I want a good wife. I want money." The leprechaun smiled and said, "Done." They walked through the woods together to a clearing. There stood a small house. Waiting at the door was a wife, not breathtaking, not stunning, but decent, kind, average. Inside the home was enough money to live, not in luxury, but without fear. And then the leprechaun vanished. The wife cooked, she cleaned, she cared. The house withstood every storm. The money was enough, and through wisdom and investment it grew slowly. The man had stability, peace, quiet contentment, but the human heart is rarely still. One day, the man caught the same leprechaun again. This time he said, "I want enough money to never worry about work. I want the most beautiful wife in the world. I want the biggest house imaginable." Again, the leprechaun said, "Done." They walked through the woods to a mighty castle. Inside was a woman of unmatched beauty. In the bedroom sat a golden pot overflowing with coins, wealth beyond counting. The man celebrated, he partied. He spent without thought, he indulged every desire. He believed he had finally received what he truly deserved. But one night, the beautiful wife snuck away with her secret lover. Together they stole the golden pot and every coin within it. That very same day, a mighty storm came and shattered the castle into rubble. The man stood with nothing, no wife, no gold, no shelter, and in that emptiness he remembered the small house, the not-so-pretty wife who was faithful, the steady life that required effort but gave peace. He searched the forest desperately, but he could not find it. It was gone. One day, as he wandered broken and tired, the leprechaun called down from a high tree branch. "How did it go?" he asked. "All gone," said the man. "Nothing left." The leprechaun shook his head and said, "What a shame. Sometimes we are given what we need instead of what we want, because what we want can harm us, while what we need can truly help us." And when I heard this story, I began to think, we have all heard tales of genies and their lamps. The first rule, they say, is to be very specific. For what you ask may not be what you receive. But even when we are specific, even when we think we know what we desire, we often do not understand the cost attached to it. What we want is usually loud. It shines, it dazzles, it promises ease and admiration. What we need is often quiet. It looks ordinary. It requires patience. It demands growth. And here is the part that many do not accept. Sometimes losing what we need in pursuit of what we want is the greatest tragedy of all, because we do not realize the value of stability until chaos arrives. We do not see the beauty of loyalty until betrayal strikes. We do not appreciate enough until we are left with nothing. And this, my friends, goes beyond leprechauns and fairy tales. It touches faith. We pray, we ask, we expect answers wrapped in gold and beauty. We tell God exactly what we want. But God does not always give us what we want. He gives us what we need, and what we need may look smaller. It may look slower. It may not impress others, but it holds through storms. We must be careful not to trade what God gives us for what our eyes desire. For sometimes the very thing we complain about, the modest house, the ordinary spouse, the steady work, is the shield protecting us from ruin. The man in the forest learned too late. He gave up what he needed for what he wanted, and once it was gone, it could not be reclaimed. So as I walk this journey until March 2nd, I leave you with this thought. Examine your desires, question your wants, protect what quietly sustains you. And when God gives you something steady and faithful, do not despise it because it lacks glitter. For sometimes the greatest blessing is not the castle, it is the cottage that survives the storm.